Good evening and welcome to Crawley Borough Council's Cabinet of the 11th of March 2026. I'm Councillor Michael Jones, Leader of the Council and Chair of the Cabinet. There are no scheduled fire drills tonight, so in the event of the fire alarm sounding, please leave the building via the main spiral staircase and through the main reception doors. Once outside, please turn left and make your way to the fire assembly point, located beyond the multi-storey car park on Exchange Road. If you're unable to use the stairs, please wait in the council chamber and you'll be guided by a member of the staff to the evacuation lift. This meeting is being live streamed via the council's YouTube channel. Please note there is a no comments function available as part of this webcasting. The council is the data controller and will retain the data collected during this webcast. This will be done so in accordance with the council's published data retention policy. Councillors are reminded to take note of what is displayed on the screens in the room, as this shows what is being recorded in the webcast. Cameras are currently set to capture you in seated positions, so please remain seated when speaking. You can request to speak, as usual, in committees by raising your hand. To speak by pressing the button with the face on it, and the microphone will go green when you are live. We will now commence with apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies for absence?
We've had one from Councillor Noyce.
Does any member have any disclosures of interest? No, can't see anyone. Now we come to the minutes held on the 4th of February 2026. Does the Cabinet agree that that the minutes are an accurate record of the meeting? Thank you. We have no members of the public in the public gallery, therefore we will move past public question time. On to item 5, which is further notice of intention to conduct business in private and notifications of any representations. Please can I ask the Democracy and Data Manager to confirm if we've received any notifications?
No, Chair, we haven't.
Thank you. Matters referred to the Cabinet and any report from the Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. As is normal, welcome to you, Councillor Russell, but I will bring you in during each item. So we move on to item 7. We will start by considering the Crawley Homes Mutual Exchange Policy Report. Councillor Irvine to introduce.
Thank you, Chair. Can you just give me a minute while I get to the beginning of the report? I want to say, Chair, I mean, as you know, because we've done this many times now, this is part of a programme of committing our Crawley Homes policy to paper. This is because it's a good thing to do, and also to comply with the requirements of the social housing regulator. I welcome all the policies that have been put to paper, but this one in particular, I think is absolutely a crucial policy for our tenants, because it does give tenants the opportunity for mobility. They can move when they want without incurring a fee, and I think that's one of the great advantages of being a council tenant, the fact that there is this mobility built in. I mean, sometimes it can be difficult because people will want to move from one particular type of property to another type of property, which we don't have a lot of because of the way our housing stock has been diminished. But overall, it is, I think, a very important policy, and it's very important that it's committed to paper and that everyone, staff, tenants and anyone else who might be interested, knows exactly what is involved in the policy. It is a detailed policy. It states the statutory rights of the tenants, and it also states the requirements of Crawley Homes, and making sure that when homes are exchanged, then the property is in good condition. Other than that, Chair, I don't really think I've got a lot to add.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I'll now open the debate for other Cabinet members. Would anyone like to speak? Councillor Sue Mullins.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome the report, because I think, as Ian said, it's a really important part of our policy that we have a good mutual exchange policy within the town, because it gives our tenants a flexible use of the council properties that we have, because people's lives change as you move through your lifetime. You may start out as a young couple, then have several children, then the children move on and grow up, and then sometimes the children move back in, or times change and your grandchildren move in, or you find yourself on your own.
You know about that.
But it's a regular occurrence, and also, sometimes you find yourselves just on your own, the two of you, or one of you, and then also it comes into ill health and mobility. There comes a time when perhaps the property you're in is no longer suitable for your needs. And so it gives people that flexibility so they can move on and change where they are. And also having a flexible one, the people sometimes do need to move out of the borough for work reasons or other reasons, and therefore having that flexibility there. I would like to see it work perhaps a little better than it does at the moment, because we do get quite a lot of people saying, I suppose it's inevitable, people go on there, they go all through the process, they agree to exchange with someone, and at the last minute it all falls apart and it doesn't happen, which can be very distressing if you've built yourself up and you're all packed up ready to go, and then things don't work out quite that way. But there's little control we can have over that. We can only work along to support people in that situation. So that's what I've got to say about that, but I do think it's very important that we have that policy within the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins. Councillor Yasmin Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I think the policy is really good. My question is that sometimes you have like elderly people that just on their own, and they might have a 3-bedroom house. So is there anything that we can do to support them and engage with them and see if they would want to move down, move to a smaller place? Do we have records of that we can do something?
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Amanda, would you like to answer that?
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Yeah, we have actually been running a special project where we are looking and helping to facilitate older people who want to downsize and do it through both mutual exchanges and through the void process, and how we can make that process much smoother for them, what support we can provide, and whether we can make kind of any concessions for them, including enabling them into a property that might ordinarily be larger than the one they're giving up, because there are restrictions in the allocations policy. But what we're trying to do is not circumnavigate that policy at all, but trying to create opportunities, particularly through mutual exchange, where we will allow that and we will provide support. So yes, we are definitely supporting older people and trying where possible to facilitate moves that might not necessarily right size them, but might enable them to downsize, allowing, just like Councillor Mullins says, to maybe have a property where they've got 1 bedroom in excess, for example, to enable family members, for example, to come and stay with them, whereas maybe historically it's been a bit more rigid than that.
Thank you, Amanda. I see Councillor Chris Mullins indicating to speak.
Yeah, thank you, and won't be for long. But I just reflect back on experiences that I've had over the years with this issue, and sometimes it's been very difficult for people to achieve mutual exchanges, because it's always voluntary. And so it's right that if at the 11th hour somebody on the other end pulls out, that can be very emotionally difficult for people to cope with. But what I wanted to emphasise as well is that council houses are council houses, of course, legally, but practically and in reality, they're people's homes, and they're places where their memories exist, where their past husband is still there in their minds, where they still feel that person is still there and sharing their home with them, and where they reared their children. And I particularly remember one elderly lady that we were dealing with who used to live next door to us when we lived in Gossip's Green, and she said, "Oh, Chris, they won't force me out of here. I know I've got a 3-bedroom house, but Harry's still here with me, and my kids come and see me." And to her, that place was more than a council house. It was her home, it was her memories, it was her emotions. And I would like to think that in all of this policy, and I support it, that we never forget the human side of people's lives. Nobody ever says to an owner-occupier, "Your house is too big, you've got to move out." They do it voluntary if they want to, but nobody ever tells them to. But I mean, I think that we can do is make things attractive for people and make them offers that are worth them considering. And in the end, they might well come to those decisions themselves. But it must be voluntary, and it must be what they want to do. And in all of that, I think we do need this policy. It's important policy, but it's just got to be operated completely in a humane way.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins. Is there any other comments or questions? I'm not seeing any. So thank you, Cabinet. I mean, this is a confirmation of our position on mutual exchanges, this policy, and this time expressed through a policy has become the convention for local government. Much of the work on mutual exchange goes on through the Home Swapper National website. And I have asked the communications team when this policy is agreed that there is some effort to promote this, not just amongst tenants, but raising awareness with their relatives and friends. Or did you want to come in on that, Amanda? Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. This was raised previously, and our team have been working on some examples and working with some residents who are willing to step forward to promote their story about mutual exchange success. So that kind of aligns with the piece that you're talking about, and we'll make sure that happens and pursued. Thank you.
I am grateful, and I had been told that there are some very good news stories out there that would and their experiences which would perhaps help encourage some of our tenants. I mean, from our perspective as a council. Oh, Ian, it's Councillor Irving. Sorry, I'll let you come in.
No, if you don't mind, Chair, I just thought I would absolutely provide reassurance, if I can, to Councillor Mullins that this policy is entirely voluntary. There's no pressure put on anybody by any member of the housing staff to do a mutual exchange. It's just purely their own choice.
Okay, Councillor Mullins.
Very quickly, I just
very
wondered
quickly,
how often does it actually happen? How many mutual exchanges do we see over a year, for instance?
I don't have the figure for you tonight, but I can find that and bring it back to you. But you know, we do have exchanges that sometimes don't go all the way. But just to reiterate Councillor Irvine's point, it is entirely voluntary. A tenant will find their exchange partner and come to us, but sometimes it doesn't come to fruition.
Thank you, Amanda. I mean, from our perspective, as I said, as a council, if we can get overcrowded households in council or social housing to swap with our under-occupying tenants who are finding it difficult to cope with a larger property, that's got to be a win-win for everyone concerned. And every little helps with the housing emergency we have, as we know. And so the more we can promote and spread knowledge of this opportunity, the better in my view. And I would appeal to relatives and close friends of people they know who are council and social housing tenants to mention this option to them, because sometimes people just need that little bit of encouragement to make a successful change, or just to be drawn to their attention. And as Councillor Irving has said in response to Councillor Mullins, the beauty of mutual exchange is it is all about choice. No one is made to do anything, and in fact, you could make a swap that wasn't strictly in line with the Crawley Homes policy on what we allow people to downsize and to. I mean, I would also mention at this point as well, it's not mutual exchange, but in terms of some of our tenants who might be, in particular our older tenants who might be looking at options, is that we have some really lovely sheltered housing schemes in Crawley for our residents over 60, I believe. You can move in from that age, which in some ways, is a great option for people who, some of our senior citizens who don't want the stress and responsibility of a large house in the way that they might have been able to cope with in much better when they were younger. But of course, as I said, no one has been forced to do anything, and no one's been forced out of their homes. But I've always thought mutual exchange is a really excellent initiative, and I'm glad we're part of it, and I'm glad we support it as well. So On those grounds, I move that the Cabinet approves the recommendations as set out in 2.1 on page 19 of the agenda pack. Councillor Irving, thank you for seconding the recommendation. Is that agreed? Thank you. We will now move on to consider the Provider Improvement Strategy and Action Plan. Councillor Irving.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as you will remember, and I expect the Cabinet will remember as well, last April, I think it was, we were inspected by the Social Housing Regulator, and as a result of that, as I'm sure you've heard many times, and I'll say it again because I'm very proud of it, we achieved a grade 2 rating, which means that we're complying with most of the consumer standards of the Social Housing Regulator, but there are certain things we need to improve. And this document here, which is a very large document, sets out how we're going to move forward and meet those objectives and comply fully with the Social Housing Regulator. So that when the Housing Regulator expects us again, which I think will be in about 3 years' time, perhaps, well, I would like to see, as far as we know, because things might have changed a little bit by then, I'd like to see that we achieve actually the highest grading. I think that's a good thing to aim for, and I think this document is ambitious in that respect. And then also the important part of it, by having this strategy, it also stops us slipping back. It keeps everything on track. So happy to answer any questions, but we've started the process. We will be continuing. Put certain measures in place to try and make sure that everything that needs to happen happens. So, with that, Chair, I recommend this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irving. I'll now open the debate for other Cabinet members. Would anyone like to speak or ask questions? Councillor Hilton.
Well, first of all, congratulations yet again on the C2 grading. I think it's a real vote of confidence in Crawley Homes and the work they do for tenants in terms of repairs. And this latest study, the performance improvement study, so I probably got that wrong, shows they're not resting on their laurels and they're looking at ways to improve. I think it also justifies the money we spent on the stock condition survey. I think that was money well spent. We can prioritise our repairs and our maintenance program to where it needs to go most. There's some good stuff about improving all over the place. It's interesting there's a TLAP as well. Some of the comments I make about TLAP and making it more representative, but we're looking towards that. And I think one of the most interesting things for me is obviously we've got the Cabinet member, or both Cabinet members, because obviously Councillor Khan's got a role to play as well, the corporate management team, but we've got this new landlord assurance board. So I'd be quite interested in how that kind of all fits in to tenant participation, Crawley Homes as a landlord, and us as elected members. So congratulations, well done. It looks like we're moving on forward, and I have every confidence that we'll get the top grade in the next time. I think it's every 4 years, isn't it? Or was it before then? Yeah.
Would anyone like to clarify that point before we move on?
So we obviously are hoping to have a conversation with the regulator once we reach the end of the action plan with this strategy to go for a regrading much sooner than would be expected. So whilst there is a normal cycle, because obviously the regulator is inspecting both private registered providers, so housing associations and local authorities. It would normally be every 4 years, I believe, but we are asking, and we already have had a conversation with the regulator about what would it look like asking for a regrading once we've delivered our action plan. So it could be much sooner.
I'm sure we'd all be quite supportive of that. Yes, Councillor C. Mullins.
Thank you. Just briefly, I welcome the report. I think it's great that we've achieved such a high rating, and I'm glad that we're ambitious to do even better in the future. Over the past few years, I think council and council housing provision has had a very bad press across the country. There's been a lot of bad stories about councils not maintaining their properties correctly, about mould, about poor standards of repairs. But I think we've got a good story to tell in Crawley. We achieve a really high standard, and hopefully we'll go on to do that in the future. So well done to everyone who's done that work. And I think the stock condition survey really speaks for itself, that we really care about the houses our residents live in, and we want them to have the highest standards that's humanly possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins. Did you want to come back on that point? No, Councillor, I'll let you come back at the end. Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'd like to echo what Councillor Hilton and Councillor Mullins said, but I think looking at that report, and it's a reassurance as one of the largest social housing landlord in the region. I think it's reassuring to our tenants in our town, Crawley, how ambitious we are and how good the job we're doing, and getting the top grading for the inspection from the regulator is really good. And stock survey is brought us some of the stuff which we always thought where we are, how we're going to improve, and how we can get to the top of the league in terms of grading. And I think it's really reassuring to hear from Amanda mentioned earlier, if the action plan has been implemented, we like to go back to the regulator earlier than we anticipated, which does mean we are confident in delivering that, and we're confident to keep our tenants as reassured and happy as we can be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. Any other points? Councillor Yasmin Khan, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I would like to say about the ASB that the regulators didn't find any weakness in any way. The council manages the landlord's anti-social behaviour functions. So I think that's really good, and I'm really proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Irvine, before I sum up...
I just want to thank everybody for their positive comments. Of course, stock condition survey, as Councillor Mullins mentioned, that is very important. It's like a doomsday book of social housing stock. Councillor Hilton mentioned the new landlord assurance board, which obviously is an internal meeting which will take place quarterly at the town hall. And the idea of that board is to oversee the improvement plan. I just want to say that I attended the first meeting, I think it was a week or two ago, and I thought it was a very positive meeting, very good. People really sort of working together to try and make sure that this is a success. And I think in particular, we need to thank the tenants who absolutely volunteered to represent other tenants and give a tenant's voice to all the matters to do with this improvement plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I too also agree that we achieved a very solid result in our grading for our council homes, and I've been impressed with how the Crawley Homes team have risen to the challenge for the areas of improvement. And as far as I'm aware, we're making steady progress on all the things that the regulator identified, and there aren't any major sticking points. I think one of the priorities that stands out to me in among all these action points will be for us to complete the stock condition survey that we've embarked upon. And I know that while the large majority of the Crawley Homes estate has now been completed, there's still a proportion left to do. And I also know that it hasn't been through want of trying. And recruitment of the additional surveyors has proved more challenging than we would have liked, but given how integral that is to getting the other things right, I know that the Cabinet will join with me in wishing the Head of Service and her colleagues every success in reaching 100% as soon as we can. So on that basis, I move that the Cabinet approves the recommendations as set out in 2.1 on page 57 of the agenda pack. Can I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Is that agreed? Thank you. We will now consider the Community Infrastructure Levy Infrastructure Strand Review report. Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief on this one. I think I spoke about this report in OSC as well a couple of days ago. So I'd like to, first of all, thanks officers to bringing this to the Cabinet and presenting a comprehensive report where this report, annual review of the community infrastructure levy. We are asking Cabinet to approve the strategic infrastructure spend priorities for 2026 and 2029 outlined in section 5.4. There are 3 priority schemes, which are 3 Bridges Station Improvement Project, Crawley Avenue, Northgate Avenue improvements at Hazelwick Roundabout, Tushmore Junction improvements. These schemes are essential to support Crawley's continued population and economic growth. Westchester County Council Highways identifies the Hazelwick and Tushmore Junction updates as their top priorities, which is why these feature prominently. 3 Bridges Station scheme remains a key element of the Crawley growth programme. An additional £535,608 of SIL funding is requested due to increased construction costs since 2018 and requirements from railway authorities. All remaining funding is already secured within the growth programme. As of 31st of December, the Council has received almost 5.2 million in SIL income, with 15% allocated to Neighbourhood Improvement Strand. This continues to support delivery of the unsupervised play improvement programme. Looking ahead, we forecast the total SIL income to reach 19 million by March 2040. Though this depends on continued economic strength and development activity within the area, especially housing growth in Crawley. Table 4 lists future infrastructure projects likely to seek SIL allocations, including improvements to Junction 10 and 11 of the motorway, requirements of national highways for local plan support, as well as funding for cycle routes, early years education and education facilities. I am pleased to support this report and ask Cabinet to approve its recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. I'll bring in Councillor Russell to present the Commission's comments.
Thank you, Chair. Everybody has the summary of the comments in front of them. There are 3 things that I would just highlight. Firstly, Councillor Nawaz did explain the 3 key priorities to the OSC. Secondly, there was some discussion about the 3 Bridges railway station redevelopment, and there was significant concern expressed in 2 different areas. First of all, the development as it is planned at the moment was drawn up prior to the possible development at Crabbit Park, and it was felt that that might not be strategically enough. The OSC did express concern that we have a lot of people using 3 Bridges Station coming in from the east of the town, and the Crabbit Park development would only add to this and make the problem that we have at the moment worse, but that it isn't at a level that we're planning for with this redevelopment. So that was discussed, and I think it was considered that possibly we would then go and ask for additional money in relation to the Crabbit development. The third thing that was discussed at the OSC, and I think this is an ongoing thing and probably felt by many members here tonight, is that it does feel repeatedly that neighbouring boroughs are building to our borders, and we keep having to go cap in hand to them to ask for support for the facilities, because when you build on the border of an urban area, people are going to be using that urban area rather than going 30 miles, 20 miles in a different direction. So there was a frustration, a real frustration expressed at sea that this seems to be repeat pattern behaviour. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. I'll now invite Councillor Jaggard to speak.
Okay, thank you. That was sooner than I had anticipated. Yes, I listened to the debate at OSC, particularly on 3 Bridges Station, and 3 Bridges Station is very much in need of redevelopment. I use it quite frequently, and this has been ongoing since I became a councillor, which was over 10 years ago now, but it will be a much more fitting entrance to our town, and I am shocked about how the costs have increased over this period and how the budget is being stretched on this. But I'm also concerned that the data that was collected, particularly the traffic data, may no longer be up to date. The last survey was taken 8 years ago, and things have clearly changed over that time, and there will be changes in the future. As Councillor Russell has just said, there was concern about the Crabbot Park development, which was in excess of 2,000 properties, going down Worth Park Avenue, along Hazlitt Avenue, round the square about and back again. And also now we've also got a new residential development along that road, just at Sutherland House, which has potential further stoppages of turning in and out that junction that wasn't there before.
Councillor Jagger, I don't want to cut you off mid-flow, I apologise for this, but I think we're slightly moving off the sort of SIL fund itself, which I take your point, but I think
I was going to ask about whether we need to spend some money on a new traffic data to get more up-to-date information so that what we're building is fit for purpose.
I think that's part of the planning process, but I'll let Clem Smith come in to give some clarification.
Thank you. We have been in discussions with the West Sussex County Council and the Highway Authority about that, and the Highway Authority have reviewed the scheme in full, and their view is that the modelling does not need to be updated. They're content with the modelling that was done previously. That's their position. Okay.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jaggard. I'll now open the debate for other Cabinet members. I see Councillor Mullins.
Thank you. I take the point about sticking to the SIL point, so I will. But I was just looking at page 189, and I was pleased to see the list of contributions to the unsupervised play areas. I think that's very, very important, because some of our unsupervised play areas are really quite old, and to some extent, and we've done some safety checks on them, are not as safe probably as they should be, and we desperately need to get all of our play areas in Crawley, the unsupervised ones I'm talking about, up to date and modernised, and I think that's a crucial job of work to be done. So I'm pleased to see that this is added into the SIL there. Can I further say that at long last I've seen something about allotments in a council paper. I mean, we seem to go through our planning process, and I had to remind the planners that they hadn't mentioned any allotments anywhere at one stage. And, you know, building new areas without allotments is so short-sighted and so limited in thought that it just actually annoys me, really. We need to look at all of our new areas, and part of when we put the sports fields in or we put the community centres in, that we actually add in the area that's going to be for local allotments. People like to grow things, people need to be healthier and fitter, and great allotments give a lot of people an opportunity. We actually have a very successful allotment system in Crawley, with waiting lists for people who want allotments. So it's not as though we're sort of, you know, we can't get people to use them when they want them. But if we don't provide them, they're not going to get them. Now, we've got a number of areas in Crawley that haven't got allotments, and I've been very frustrated by that, and I've had some success and some failure in the area, and that's disappointing. But I want to see allotments. I know I think it's £500,000 in it, which won't do every allotment that we want, but or is it? Yeah, 0.5, whatever that is. 50,000. It's not even what I said. Yeah, but you know, I mean, I do think that we should take allotments more seriously in our future planning, and I appeal really that we do that, and that we don't forget that when we're building new residential areas, that allotments should be a key and crucial part of those areas.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins. I think the officer's record on allotments has been impugned, so I might give Clem Smith an opportunity to respond on that. The only other thing I'm thinking is, would spending on allotments come under the strategic or the neighbourhood strand? Clem, would we know?
Definitely the neighbourhood improvement strand. And and as you've rightly pointed out, we have made provision for, in the future, long-term allocations within Neighbourhood Improvement Strand for money to go towards the allotments. And obviously prioritisation of allotments as part of future development is incorporated within Crawley's new local plan policies. We have taken on board the importance of prioritising it in the new plan, and quite clearly also from new development it is possible to unlock resources via Section 106 agreements as well to enable investment in allotments. So I think we've covered all the bases that we need to in terms of both policy and also unlocking resources through the planning process for allotments.
Noted. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you. There's some very good news here. I think as someone who uses the station forecourt and Three Bridges station on a regular basis, that is to be welcome. It's not great for pedestrians, it's not great for air quality, and the traffic signalling does leave a lot to be desired. You have to wait a long time, and that causes frustration. And in terms of allotments, I can announce that, as Councillor Russell's here, that when there's a landslip by Three Bridges station as a result of work for the community, we got 3 extra allotments along at Three Bridges station at Henson Road. So that was good news, and that they were quickly let. So obviously there's quite a demand for them. So that's one of our biggest successes in the last year or so, even if it was in the other side of the tracks, as it were.
Okay, Councillor Russell, I'll let you in briefly.
Very briefly, it wasn't just 3 extra allotments. There was actually a lot of extra facilities put in for allotment holders by Network Rail. They did quite a lot.
They did a great job. So you know, wherever the money comes from, we will use it.
I will take it.
And I've had a look at the Grattan Drive play area today, and it is a bit tired and needs some work done. So I'm pleased about that as well. Yeah. In terms of some of the stuff from Section 5.45 onwards, I am really pleased about this. I went to the consultation from the County Council on the highways improvements around Hazelwick Avenue last year, and I was a bit worried that it would be quite a long time before they came to fruition. So I'm really pleased about the Northgate Avenue improvements. There are some good stuff there already, and hopefully they'll move on to the main flyover, because going around there is like the wacky races. I mean, I try and avoid it if I can. I go over the flyover. That's how bad it is. But I'm really pleased. And an important thing as well, in terms of my portfolio, it will help in terms of air quality as well. So that's really good news. Just moving on though. Moving on to section table 4. It's interesting we talk about Crabtree Park, because when I look at the Highfield roundabout improvements, I wonder if we should ask Horsham District Council for a contribution, because if West of Highfield ever comes to fruition, and I hope it does in its present form, some of the pressures on Highfield Avenue will be coming from west of Highfield. So I wonder, you know, it should go over district boundaries, but I'm sure it won't. It's interesting to see that, and I think this must be a county council. Is this a county-led project? The 4.5 million on the local cycling walking infrastructure plan route. It seems sounds quite a lot of money to me. And you know, my view is yes, cycling is important, but in terms of the network, getting people to walk and go from A to B through parts of the neighbourhood, particularly in Forge Wood. So I assume some of this work is part of the work coming towards Forge Wood as well, because there's a number of areas in Forge Wood, particularly along the Balkan Road and along Radford Road, where we really do need much better pedestrian improvement. So that's really good news. And just one question right at the end. In terms of M23 Junction 10 southbound merge, again, is that highways agency and we're contributing to it? Why can't the highways agency fund it themselves? It seems a bit robbing Peter to pay Paul, but that'd be my question.
Thank you, Nick. Sorry, Councillor Hilton. There's a few questions there. I'll let Clem answer that, and then Councillor Nawaz can come in.
Thank you. So working backwards, M23, junction 10, did you say, or junction 11? Both of them actually are part of the future allocation that's proposed. This is something that National Highways have insisted on and made that very clear as part of the local plan examination process, that they see investment in those two motorway junctions as absolutely critical to enabling Crawley's ongoing growth. And really it was their insistence, their support for our local plan. And so we're obviously obligated as a result to ensure there's sufficient funds set aside going forward for investment in those junctions. In relation to the Horsham state of play and opportunities to unlock Section 106 resources, at the moment, as you're aware, the planning application is currently in with Horsham Local Planning Authority. You may also be aware that a significant number of issues have arisen from the first round of public consultation, a number of significant objections. The current state of play is that the applicant is going through those and seeking to respond to those objections. At the moment, the discussion about potential Section 106 legal agreement is therefore rather premature, because there are still key factors that the applicant needs to address, and we'll see how that pans out in the coming weeks and months. In relation to the LC-WIP, Local Cycling Walking Infrastructure Plan, again, that investment is something that West Sussex Highways equally insisted on in terms of setting aside resources for investment in new strategic cycle infrastructure routes. That is our requirement to do in response to their insistence. They see it as a key mechanism, again, for enabling the necessary sustainable transport infrastructure to be implemented, commensurate with our growth projections as a borough.
Thank you. Councillor Nowers, did you want to come in?
Just very briefly, I think Clem has clearly explained. I think that there are two things we're talking about here: Crawley's growth and Crawley's economy is booming, and what we need to be prepared to be ready for that, to adjust that strategically on those side as well. And those two things which mentioned, motorway junction improvements and also the cycle route, it was the external authorities which they thought is important for us to be ready for that. So that's why we have this allocation on those insistence, and you're absolutely right on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Irvine.
Thank you, Chair. I wonder if the elephant in the room isn't the fact that some of these projects might not start before local government reorganisation. So, does if we accept these recommendations, does that tie any future authority into actually doing the projects we're talking about tonight?
I think the answer to that is no, isn't it, Clem? But I'll let you...
I suppose, strictly speaking, the answer to that is no. However, obviously, I'm sure the new authority will be minded as to how to ensure continuity and minimise hiatus. And the fact that it is set out in the Crawley's local plan that those investments in those key infrastructures need to happen is, I'm sure, something that the unitary authority will be taking account of going forward. Ultimately, there will be a unitary-wide plan to succeed the borough plan, but in the interim, I should imagine that the requirements will remain will remain part of the trajectory going forward, irrespective of LGR.
Thank you. Did you want to come back, Councillor? Thank you. Councillor C. Mullins.
Just briefly about allotments and play areas. It's always much more easy to put these in when a development is actually happening. It's much more difficult to impose them or try and find space for them once a development has already happened. Therefore, I'm really pleased that in our local plan we take account of those things well ahead. And it does worry me that big developments like Crabbit Park, they don't have perhaps the same interest or the same history or the same urge to do these things. So it's really important that we negotiate with them and say, this is what happens in our local plan and this is what we'd like to see in your new development, even though you might not be part of Crawley. I'm really pleased to see the 3 high priorities that we've got here for our SIL money. These are, as already been mentioned, are 3 really long-running issues that have been going on. way over 10 years, I think, for Three Bridges Station, and a long time for the other two as well. And they are really important entrances and exits to and from Crawley that really have been waiting a long time to be improved. And the problem is when something goes on for so long like this, then it continually comes back saying, oh, well, maybe the data's changed and we need to do yet more consultations and collect more data and consult highways yet again, which holds it up for longer, and then it costs even more. Yeah. So it's like a chicken and egg. It just goes on, round and round in circles, like a snake eating its tail, really. So that's all I'm worried about, is that the constant delays just means more problems for everybody, and can we just get on with it somehow or other? And I know we're dealing with different authorities and different groups and different people like National Rail, but it's not always so easy to move forward.
Yeah. I think Councillor Nawaz wanted to come in. Thank you, Councillor Sue Mullins, and your microphone's still on.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. It has taken too long and to address these kind of things. But given that where we are at the moment, and hopefully if these recommendations are approved this afternoon or this evening, I think we'll be in a very good position to go to the procurement process to have a contractor in place this year, and hopefully construction start end of this year. So we are in a very good place with that, and it's be moving forward as quickly as we can, given that it's a high priority projects which we identified for this town, how important it is. And we're hoping this starts before the LGR come into place, so we have something there for our residents today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any, so I'll start to sum up. I think one of the issues we often have in local government is the number of acronyms that fly around, and I think anyone viewing this meeting might be forgiven for asking what is a SIL, what is a strategic infrastructure strand, and essentially, SIL stands for the Community Infrastructure Levy, and this is the money that's collected from developers that goes towards building infrastructure. That's about the plainest I can get it in English, I think. But while much of it goes to fairly major road schemes and junction upgrades that we've referred to, there is the neighbourhood strand, which we are successfully using to ensure that the council is making play equipment upgrades in much of the remaining programme for our unsupervised play areas, much to Councillor Mullins' approval, I might add, regardless of what he thinks of allotments. And I think currently the reality is we can either spend it on the play areas or we can spend it on the allotments, but we can't spend it on both. We can, but getting the remaining programme for our unsupervised play areas is certainly something that's dear to this Labour administration, and I'm sure none of us can dispute that. Work, for example, is beginning soon on the Loppitts Road play area in Tilgate, and in just under a fortnight we will have the very happy occasion of the work to rejuvenate the Northgate play area at Woodfield Road being completed and officially opened once again. Now, just on other aspects of the report, I mean, I note that because of water neutrality, there has been a relatively low amount of development in the borough in the last year, meaning that we've collected less than £100,000 in this 25-26 years so far. Now, this will undoubtedly go up as development comes back online, now that water neutrality is no longer a planning restriction. But it does mean that some of the projects identified will be largely theoretical until the money becomes available again. That doesn't mean it won't become available. It just means that many of the admirable things we have on the list won't necessarily be delivered until that happens. Now, I have to say it was certainly pleasing that the members of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission appeared to be largely happy with the choices outlined within the report, and I think we as a cabinet thank them for their comments. I'm particularly supportive of us taking some of the available money to cover the increased costs of the Three Bridges Station Improvement Scheme, a project that will really deliver a much improved passenger and commuter experience. Now, with this additional funding, I optimistic as I can say I have been for many years on this becoming a reality. Councillor Jaggard mentioned 10 years. It feels longer than that, Councillor Jaggard, if I'm honest. But I am told with some confidence that we could expect work to start by the end of this calendar year. Now, we have been on an extensive journey with the Three Bridges Station Improvement Programme, but it looks like it will soon be worth all the effort so far, and I think that's a positive place for us to be. So on that positive note, I'd like to move that the Cabinet approves the recommendations as set out in 2.2 on pages 179 and 180 of the agenda pack. A seconder, Councillor Nawaz, thank you. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you, Cabinet. We will now consider the approval of Section 106 Monies for Education. Councillor Nawaz, would like to introduce this?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief again. I'm pleased to introduce this report, which is requesting that Cabinet approve the allocation of just 137,195 of Section 106 monies towards the expansion of Holy Trinity School in Crawley. Cabinet approval would allow officers to arrange transfer of the funds to West Sussex County Council for investment in the school. As with the Community Infrastructure Levy, the Crawley Local Planning Authority plays a key role in collecting Section 106 funds paid by developers and planning applicants. These funds help offset impact of new development granted planning permission in the borough. Given planning permission for new housing and new employment space can mean more population growth and employment growth. These risks placing additional pressure on local services, including schools. The Department for Education announced in 2022 that Holy Trinity School would be part of its Priority Schools rebuilding program, so it can be expanded with an additional form of entry. I'm very pleased that this council is in a position to support Holy Trinity School expansion using Section 106 funding, and I urge Cabinet to approve the recommendation as set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. Councillor Jaggard.
Yeah, this is very much quicker. Yeah, I would like to talk about Holy Trinity School. As an ex-teacher, I was a teacher for 30 years, and I am absolutely delighted that our young people are going to be given this wonderful new school premises. Learning and a young person's sense of worth is greatly improved by good, modern, well-designed facilities. And I was at the planning committee that approved this. So it's a fabulous investment for our young people, and I'm delighted that this is going to hopefully go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. I'll now open the debate for other Cabinet members. Would anyone like... Oh, there's two microphones on, are there? Is there someone left there? Oh, right. Thank you. Councillor Irvine.
Well, I just want to say, Chair, I completely agree with what Councillor Jaggard has said. What is more important in a young person's life than a good opportunity, and the opportunity for a good opportunity, and that should apply for all children everywhere. And learning in a modern building that's fit for purpose must be of benefit, and I think I feel quite proud actually to be an opportunity to actually vote in favour of this. So yeah, I think any opportunity this council has to help children get a good education, even though we're not the education authority, we ought to grab it with both hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. I see Councillor Khan wants to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm really happy that we are helping out Holy Trinity. My child went there, and my family children, all of them really went to Holy Trinity. And recently, one child I know made a comment. It's a very old building. I don't like that school. He moved from Thomas Bennett. Then when they went to Holy Trinity, and he didn't like it. And he goes, "Oh, it's a really old building." And stop being fussy. But yeah, I'm really happy that we are supporting the school, because I think children's future means a lot, and I think education is vital for children. So, well done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Sue Mullins.
Just quickly, I also welcome the rebuilding of Holy Trinity School. I've seen the plans, they look very exciting. We've had new buildings at Thomas Bennett, new buildings at St Wilfrid's, so I think it's well above time for Holy Trinity to be the next in line to be refurbished. And as Councillor Carnes just said, there's nothing more important, and everyone else, there's nothing more important than children's education, and the environment where they receive that education has a great impact on their future lives. They have one chance going through school, they're there for a short amount of time, and they need the best quality education, the best quality teaching, and the best quality environment in order to thrive and move on to the future.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins. Yes, I think it's interesting because it's a county responsibility, but we collect the Section 106 money and we have to decide to release it. So interesting overlap there. But I think I can't add an awful lot other than to say it is an important secondary school covering a lot of the area to the southwest of the borough. It will be extremely valuable for the education of many of our young people here in Crawley. And so it certainly has my full support, and I hope that of the Cabinet. So on that basis, I think everyone's spoken. I'll move to the recommendation. I move that the Cabinet approves the recommendations as set out in 2.1 on page 219 of the agenda pack. Can I have a seconder? Yes. Thank you, Councillor Nawaz. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you, Cabinet. We will now move on to consider the financial Virement report, which I will introduce. This report seeks the Cabinet's approval for Virements or budget adjustments, if we're using plainer English, required to regularise the budget to enable the timely progression of 4 capital projects. The relevant budget information was not available when the 25-26 Q3 budget monitoring report was considered and approved, and delays would create significant risks to effective project delivery. The Council, I'm pleased to say, has secured £200,000 of grant funding for a community hubs project which will enable the installation of a wide range of equipment at 23 sites in the borough, including community centres and pavilions. The equipment allows remote access and controls of various elements of the buildings, including CCTV, door entry and heating. This project is significantly more environmentally sustainable by reducing travel, energy consumption and other resources as well as cost. And the project fits in very well with the one-off £120,000 budget for 2 officers for internal compliance and delivery, which includes Martin's Law, approved as part of the budget for 26-27. Enabling significantly more work to be carried out. I would say the time this is going to free up on things like travelling time and fuel for our facilities team, who would otherwise have to go out physically to do all of these things, will be substantial. Currently, our facilities officers spend considerable time travelling between sites to permit access for contractors or to deal with what can often be relatively minor customer queries. The Community Hubs project will enable remote access to be provided, thereby significantly reducing the amount of time that's spent doing that. The reduction in travel time will help to generate needed capacity within our community facilities team. Excuse me. It is the intention that the additional capacity will be used to upskill our in-house facilities staff to undertake maintenance and compliance duties which are currently delivered by external contractors. And by bringing these tasks in-house, that will help us to generate efficiency savings and can provide a more responsive service than may otherwise be achievable through external providers. The impact of the change will be monitored over the coming year, and potential savings will be considered as part of the next year's council budget. Over and above the efficiency and service standard benefits, the Community Hubs project will enable the improved security at community venues, which will ensure we comply with Martin's Law regulations, which come into effect from April 2027. Moving on to the element of this which is about future housing delivery. Given that this is in Part A, I have to be careful what I say on this to avoid identifying which opportunity it is, as will all of the Cabinet. But it would be wrong not to increase the amount in the budget to cover this, in my view. Hopefully no one would disagree and we don't have to discuss it in any more depth than that. Finally, this transfer will allow Crawley Homes to put some investment into 2 of our hostels at the Orchards and Bewbush Manor. Neither are in terrible condition, just to reassure Cabinet members, but they do need some work, and it is money that will be well spent. There'll be refurbishment of the kitchens, bathrooms, windows and redecorations at the Orchards Hostel, and that requires £90,000, and a similar refurbishment's required at an estimated cost of £150,000 at Bewbush Manor Hostel. The work scope includes repairs or replacements to every window and wooden door within the block as necessary, to include new ironmongery, and the works include complete redecoration of the external decoration to the masonry, as well as the metal guttering and downpipes, guttering valleys and roof to be cleared. This is currently stated as a 12-week programme for all above repairs to be carried out and is in accordance with the Grade 2 listed status of the property. I think it's fair to say anyone who's seen Bewbush Manor in recent times will agree that it does need some love, and I think this will be a very timely and appropriate investment. The works to the hostels can be funded from the £338,485 budget, which was originally identified for an extension at the Orchards. The budget for the extension was based on construction costs 7 years ago, and it's no longer enough for the original scheme. And the main communal areas need to be addressed in the short term in any event to ensure the continued use of the hostel at the acceptable standard. So, Cabinet, if the revised bid for the capital development project is accepted, the budget needs to be increased to accommodate the Section 106 contributions and fees. And the business case has been revised, and the scheme continues to meet the Council's evaluation criteria and provides value for money. So, having said that, I will now open the debate for other Cabinet members who'd like to speak. Councillor Sue Mullins.
Just very quickly, I welcome the introduction of the Community Hub project, and I don't have much good to say normally about modern technology, but this is a really good use of modern technology because it frees up a lot of staff and it also makes working much more efficient. Can I sort of collate it with what's happened at the Broadfield Community Centre, where they've been able to install modern technology that can control the heating and lighting throughout the building. So the people who are in the office can control, we can switch off the lighting there, we can put the heating on there according to who's using the building. It makes a much more efficient use of facilities and things that cost a lot of money. So I do welcome this because this is the same sort of thing but on a much bigger scheme. So.
Thank you, Councillor Mullins. Councillor Hilton.
My comment nicely follows on from you, Councillor Sue Mullins, in that I'm pleased about the Community Hub because it dovetails with our new heating controls for community buildings, our community centres to cut gas usage. And it's exactly the kind of thing. So I'd imagine it's no coincidence that one goes with the other. So not only will we be cutting gas bills, we'll be reducing emissions as well. So it's a win-win.
Yes. I completely agree with you. Any other comments or questions? I'm not seeing anyone, so thank you, Cabinet. Everyone has spoken, so I move that the Cabinet approves recommendations as set out in 2.1 on page 223 of the agenda pack. Can I have a seconder? I saw Councillor Hilton first, if I'm honest. Yeah. So in that case, is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you, Cabinet. We will now move on to consideration of the exempt items. Therefore, I propose that under Section 100A, subsection 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act by virtue of the paragraphs specified against the items. Is that agreed? Thank you, Cabinet. The recording and live stream will now finish, so I wish to thank anyone who's been viewing for watching, or indeed anyone who is watching in future times, and wish everyone viewing live a pleasant and peaceful rest of the evening.